It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
When it's holidays and you book a holiday, make sure that you're available for the holiday. Don't book, don't pay the money, and don't send your family away while you go somewhere else and do work.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Hello, this is Justin. I'm here with Kylie. We are so excited that it's Friday and that we get to tell you all about what life is like in the Coulson home with our I'll Do Better Tomorrow episode. Just before we do, I'm very, very excited. Well, actually, I'm kind of a bit sad, but two big things are happening today and tomorrow. I'm shooting off on an aeroplane shortly, heading to Sydney for the Positive Education Schools Association conference. It's being held in one of the really wonderful schools on the North Shore of Sydney, and I'm going to be a speaker there. So I'm really looking forward to talking about how educators can bring more well-being strategies into the classroom so that our kids can thrive. And then tomorrow, the Resilient Kids Conference. I'm going to be in Melbourne for that. If you haven't looked it up, if you're in Melbourne and you can make it, this is going to be an absolute humdinger, Kylie. A humdinger. How long has it been since somebody talked about being a humdinger? It's going to be a humdinger of a conference. I'm just saying. It's going to be fantastic. And then I get home on Saturday night so I can be with my family again. That's the nature of what we do. So
time for your birthday.
Oh, I can't believe you brought that up. Okay, so I'm having my birthday this weekend as well. We have our birthdays 3 days apart. But the reason that I'm sharing all of that is because if you work for a school or if your kids go to a school where you think it'd be awesome to have me show up and do some work with teachers, with parents, even with the students, you can get in touch with us. info@happyfamilies.com.au and let us know about it, because I love to visit people and give talks and inspiration and help families to be happier and help teachers to make their classrooms hum and all that kind of thing. All right, every Friday, Kylie, let's get into it. Every Friday, we call it I'll Do Better Tomorrow. This is where we probably give you too close a look. We overshare and give you way too much information about what's happening in our family as we try to be intentional parents and give you some inspo for how you can be more intentional as well. A couple of things that we need to talk about. We've got to debrief on the holidays because I completely blew it. Fortunately, the kids loved it anyway, but I completely blew it.
And then we might mention day one of term 4.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to start with a confession, and I feel really bad saying this because I'm the parenting expert and I'm supposed to get it all right. But these were possibly the holidays where I was less available to my family than ever before in history. And I feel really bad about it. Here's the thing, right? So every state has holidays that don't quite marry up. There's a bit of overlap with the holidays, but they don't marry up exactly. So when Queensland went on school holidays,
Adelaide did not.
Yeah, South Australia still had people at school. And as it happens, my team booked me almost every single day in Adelaide to give a talk at a school or at a conference or whatever it might be, which meant that the holiday that you and I booked without me checking my diary because it was school holidays ended up being a holiday that you went on without me. And I caught up with you for the last day and a half. I don't even know where to go with this, except to say any parent who is within the sound of my podcast, when it's holidays and you book a holiday, make sure that you're available for the holiday. Don't book, don't pay the money, and don't send your family away while you go somewhere else and do work.
Great take home, honey. Make sure you listen to it.
Oh, it was so bad. So we've started planning our holidays 12 months in advance as of these holidays because I completely got it wrong. Even if we're not going away, we're just going to make sure the team knows this is dedicated time for my family. Oh, boy.
So anyway, outside of that 3 days that we went away,
what a stuff up.
These holidays were actually supposed to be a non-event. We had nothing planned. You were going to be away for the first week and you were going to be writing a book the second week. So,
and can I also say, I'm not going to commit to any more books.
What?
You heard me. I'm not going to.
JR, can you just repeat that? What did he say?
I'm not going to commit to any more books. I can't believe you're replaying this. I can't believe that you're doing that to me. Oh, boy.
Wow. I have that actually on tape now. It's recorded.
Okay. Let's just bear in mind, I've got 2 more books to write after this. But
I know.
I'm not going to commit to any more.
Till when?
Well, I'm not going to commit.
Till when?
Let's just leave it there. But I couldn't concentrate and be with the kids. I didn't work much, but having that massive overdue project hanging over my head like a storm cloud really did make it hard for me to be a good, involved, present parent. And so I'll do better tomorrow is that I've got to get my priorities in order so that we can have good holidays as a family and we can have high quality time together. That's me. Okay, let's talk about you.
Let's talk about me.
Yeah, let's talk about what you learned. What's your I'll do better tomorrow? Because I'm feeling really bad.
Well, look, like I said, our holidays, there wasn't much happening in our holidays whatsoever. Our April babies missed out on birthdays this year because we were in between houses.
Yeah, we were moving, yeah.
And so I had promised them that once we were settled, I would put on a birthday party for them. Well, we ended up pretty much having a half-year party.
Which is so awesome. I'm so glad that you did it. Who cares if their birthday was back in April? Like, just celebrate their birthday. It's great.
And it was really nice. And again, because we've moved into a new community, I actually think that it worked out beautifully because back in April, they didn't really have any connections. But they've, had 3 terms at school. They've done a few extracurricular activities. They've started to get to know people within their own community. And so when their friends came over, that you could tell they were actually friends.
That's a great take-home message for anyone who's going through a move or who's gone through a move recently. Have the party 6 months down the track when they've got friends, when they know people, rather than trying to do it on day one if that's when the party falls due. I think that's a great take-home message.
And so the other fun thing about the parties was a few weeks prior to the holidays, Women's Weekly has just brought out their 40th anniversary cake book. Do you remember that cake book that we, as kids, I would look through that book and plan the next 7 years worth of their birthday cakes.
I spent a lot of afternoons salivating into that book. That's pretty gross. I can't believe I said that. You know what I mean? Those cakes always look so attractive to kids.
And what was so funny was when I brought it home, our 18-year-old, she was like, I remember this book. And she flicked through it and she said, you made me this cake and this cake. And did you make this cake for Chanel? And she went through and reminded me of all of these cakes that I had made.
It's amazing. Memories from cakes.
It was very, very cute. So that was a really nice addition to the holidays. It gave me a day to actually prep with the girl whose party it was for. And then obviously they had their day with their friends. But then the other thing that we did, which we've done it a handful of times, but this time felt different and it felt really, really good to do it. We invited our neighbours in our street. We've got probably 24 houses in our street. We're in a little cul-de-sac. We invited them to breakfast just to say thank you for making us feel so welcome.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned this. So we always talk about the importance of community, the importance of building your village, and we cracked open the barbecue and cooked bacon and eggs for the neighbourhood, basically.
Cooked some muffins and banana bread, and it was number one, so well attended and really, really well received.
It's amazing when you get 40 or 50 neighbours standing in your backyard.
You couldn't hear the music that we'd put on, could you?
They all started talking. I was like, wow, it's a good thing the whole neighbourhood's here because the amount of racket that they're making, they'd wake up the neighbourhood. It was great, but sense of community, sense of village. And I just thought, wouldn't it be amazing if more neighbourhoods did that sort of thing, where we invite all of your neighbours over and just open up your house and say, hey guys, let's have breakfast. What astounded me as well is how well known our 8-year-old is.
Yeah.
Across the entire neighbourhood, everybody knows this kid. They've seen her riding up and down the street. And almost every single one of them said, can you just get her to wear a helmet when she's riding? Can you? And I'm like, every day I say to her, every single day. But an absolute delight. So much fun. Kylie, before we wrap this up, because there's take-home messages all over this. First of all, get your holidays right. Secondly, put on a party, even if your kids aren't having a birthday. And third, bring the neighbourhood together, because when you create that village, it feels like you belong. It feels so good. But
and you don't know who in your street needs to feel like they belong either.
Yeah.
Like, it's as much about you as it is about them. We've got a street full of, elderly people, retirees. We've got some singles staying on their own. And for them to be included, it was so nice to kind of watch it all happen. And it really took very little effort on our part. We opened up our backyard
and cooked some bacon and eggs. Yeah.
But it just, the reality is we could have opened up our backyard, but unless everyone showed up, it would have been a non-event.
Yeah, I think we've got the best street in our suburb.
I think we do too.
So there's one more thing that I want to bring up, and I know we need to wrap up the I'll Do Better Tomorrow episode, but something happened at the end of the holidays, in fact, day one of school, that involved both of us and one of our kids who's involved in school refusal. And I reckon for any parent who's listened to this episode, there's some pretty solid take-home messages in what occurred. You know what I'm talking about because I've told enough of the story already, but do you feel like, because it implicates both of us, and we want to preserve our daughter's anonymity and keep her safe, but I just feel like there's some stuff here that parents should be aware of when it comes to an I'll Do Better Tomorrow kind of episode and scenario.
It's really easy when you're looking at Facebook or Instagram to kind of look at people's lives, and at times listen to
They've got it all together.
I'll do better tomorrow, and hear the stories where we've nailed it and think we've got it all together. But the reality is we don't. We're just like every other family. And day one
Like me and holidays.
of term 4 was hard. If I can just preface it, the day before, public holiday for us, I spent an entire day wading through our children's bedroom. We have 3 children in one bedroom.
And it was a disaster. And you didn't get it finished. You took all
and
day.
our holidays had been so fast paced, not because we were doing anything, but we had so many visitors that I hadn't had a chance to kind of work with the kids through the 2-week holiday.
That's the thing, isn't it, right? So we live on the Sunshine Coast, and all of a sudden all of our friends from all over the country are like, we're coming to the coast. Can we catch up? We had so many lunches and breakfasts and dinners.
And it was so wonderful and so exhausting all at the same time. And so the things that would normally happen to keep the house running didn't.
Yep.
So Monday, public holiday, you're reading a book and I'm in the bedroom wading through just stuff, birthday parties and gifts and clothes, and it was a really non-fulfilling way to spend my public holiday.
I've just got to say, I read a book a little bit. I also did a whole lot of tidying. And
yes, you did.
You
did, just and you can't help me in that space, and that's fine. I'm not
all right.
putting you down.
Took the kids out for a bike ride. I did stuff.
But as a result, come Tuesday, I was really ready for the kids to just go off.
You wanted space.
And give me my space.
Yeah.
And everything was going well. I went down to my rock. I meditated. I had this really calm, beautiful start to my day. And I got home with a message from one of our children to say, hey, Mum, I'm going to come back from my study this morning and I'll actually take the kids to school. You don't even have to do it. And I'm like, yes.
Meanwhile, I'm at the office.
Amazing.
I've been at the office from 5 o'clock every morning so that I can write this book.
I've got a massage booked in. I'm ready to just have a great day. Well, I walk in the door after having my beautiful morning and one of our children decides that she is not going to school.
Yep.
And not the usual suspect. So I was, what are you talking about? You're going to school. Just go get ready. And it wasn't until probably 10 or 15 minutes later when she was tinkling on the piano that I realised that she was actually serious. She wasn't going to school. And so I went in and I could feel myself getting really frustrated. And I actually said these words, I need a day for me. I need you to go to school so that I can have some space. I've given up 2 weeks of my life so that everybody here can have a great holiday and I've loved every minute of it. But right now, I just need me time. It didn't work. It didn't go anywhere. She just absolutely looked me blank in the face and told me that she couldn't do it today and went into her bedroom. So at that point, I rang you because you were just in the office around the corner and I said,
need help.
I need you to come home.
Because you're not thinking straight in a high emotion state.
That's exactly right.
You know that when you're on the brink, remember to stop and think.
And you may have just said to me, it's so funny you called me. I was just ringing to see whether or not you needed me for anything because I thought I might go for a surf. And I said, well, actually, you need to come home now because I actually can't do this right now.
Yep.
And so thankfully you did come home.
And can I tell you, I nailed it.
You did nail it.
I nailed it. So you were cranky, high emotions, low intelligence. You just were really, really over it and said, I'm done. So I stepped into the room after just composing myself and thinking it through and working out where to go. And I basically went through the whole explore, explain, empower process with this kid. And I asked what was going on. She said, I hate school. I hate my subjects. I've got no friends. And trying to see the world through her eyes, putting myself into her frame of reference, I felt like that when I was at high school as well. It was...
And so did I.
It was
But
horrendous.
The difference was school wasn't an option. I just had to go.
And it was the same for me. I had to go, except when I nicked off and went surfing and no one knew. But essentially...
You did that a lot.
I did it somewhat. But this poor kid, she's in tears. She doesn't want to be there. It's really, really hard. And after I listened a whole lot, I said, well, we've got a bit of a challenge, haven't we? And she said, uh-huh. And I said, what's the challenge? She said, I've got to go to school. I said, yeah, you do. You do. We're not going to homeschool you. We're not going to change your school. We've been through this too many times and we need to just get you to school. So let's talk some more. Let me understand some more. We've got to find a solution and neither of us has one right now. So talk to me some more about it. So she talked through a whole lot of stuff and after about 5 or 10 minutes of listening, I said, well, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go for a walk. I'll come back soon and we'll see if we can come up with a solution then. So not trying to fix it right now, was critically important. So I went for a short walk. I gave you a hug. You didn't want to talk to me. You were mad at me because I was talking to her nicely and you were cranky with her because you wanted to have your day on your own. But when I stepped back into the room a few minutes later, I said, I got this idea. Which days are the hardest? Because I've noticed over the last few months that there's a pattern. She's really happy to go to school some days and hates going to school other days. She said, I hate Tuesdays, I hate Fridays. And I said, okay, tell me more about that. So she stepped me through it. And by the end of that conversation, as I listened really carefully, I said to her, okay, so I've got to check with Mum first, but I've got an idea. What if you don't go to school Fridays anymore? What if we give you Fridays off because you hate Fridays? Do you reckon you can push through the other 4 days? And she looked at me like I was crazy and said, yeah, I reckon I can. And I said, well, I think you still need to go for the first class or two because there's stuff that you do need to do, but we could bring you home early on a Friday and we can do it on the condition that you're not going to come home and stare at your screen and do stuff all. You're going to go for a bike ride, or you're going to do some exercise. You're going to do some reading of some material that's going to be helpful in your life. Some of my good psychology books. You're going to do some study for exams or get projects done. Like, you're going to use the time productively, but you're going to be home in your own space enjoying the quiet rather than being at school in a place you hate on a day that you don't want to be there. How does that sound? And she looked at me like, could I really do that? Like, would you really let me? I said, yeah, let's give it a try. We'll give it 3 or 4 weeks. We're not going to do it for the next however many years. We're just going to do it for term 4. We might just do it for a few weeks, but let's just see what happens. And there was an instant shift. All of a sudden, she was like, the weight's been lifted. I've been heard. I've been seen. I've been valued. I still have to go to school. I get it, but there is a way through this. And I just thought a little bit of creativity, a little bit of compassion, a little bit of listening, nailed it. And every day this week, other than today, because it's Friday, she's gone off to school without the slightest hint of hesitation. And she's so excited that she gets to have some quiet time today and focus on stuff that's important to her, that's still constructive and productive. I reckon the take-home message in that is just the power of seeing the world through our kids' frame of reference and being creative in finding solutions. Recognizing that the structures that are in place aren't the structures that have to be there, and we can create our own.
I'm grateful that when either one of us is having a bad day, generally speaking, the other is able to pick up the pieces. And you surely picked up the pieces that day.
Well, we hope that this has been a helpful I'll Do Better Tomorrow. We've covered some ground today, but hopefully there's been a whole lot of ideas there for building community, getting your holidays right, listening to your kids, making cakes, celebrating life. There's so much in there. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and Craig Bruce is our executive producer. Oh, just before we go, free webinar. If you're feeling burnt out, free webinar. Next Wednesday night, the 12th of October. It's called Burnt Out, for any parent who's feeling burnt out. If that's you, please join us. Free webinar. Did I mention it's free, Kylie? Free webinar.
Free
webinar on the 12th. That's next Wednesday night. All the details at happyfamilies.com.au. Have a great weekend.